Hi, Fish. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Doc. How are you?
Fish, I'm all right. Can you shoot free throws?
Well, one time I thought I could, Doc, but I'm aged veteran now, and I'm not quite sure I could get it to the lip of the rim all the time.
Fish, man, 7 of 18 for Indiana. Don Fischer, nice enough to join us. 4 Winds Lakeside in Marina Hotline. Overall, what was your take of the Purdue game from an Indiana standpoint?
Well, the good news is they certainly showed a lot more energy and effort than they did in the Nebraska ball game. I guess I liked what I saw in the first half, how they fought and got back in the contest. I didn't like the end of the first half because, again, it points out some issues that they have with turnovers and making plays when they need to be made. And certainly the start of the second half destroyed their opportunity to even get into the ball game to have a chance to win it because they gave up 3 threes in, 5 minutes time. So those are all issues that I have big problems with. And I think more than anything else, Doc, my biggest concern with this team right now is the fact that they don't have an edge. I don't think they have an edge. Do you think they have an edge?
No. That's Fish, that's a great way to put it. There's a lot of ways to put that. But, man, you're right. They don't have an edge. That is a perfect way to put that. I agree.
Yeah,
Tell people what you mean by that, Fish.
Huh?
Tell people what you mean by that.
Well, there's got to be a fire in your gut. There's got to be the ability to go out there. You get excited to play the game. I mean, it's not even that. You should have that in your gut, and I don't see that right now. I mean, when the introductions were made before this game began, I watched both teams. Indiana walked out on the floor when they were introduced and maybe ran over to the officials finally and then came back. And then I watched Purdue run out, and there was mayhem on their side in the way they approached it. There was an enthusiasm. There was excitement about it. I didn't see that at all from the Indiana players. And I'm going, I don't get it. I don't get what kids think these days. I don't get how they go about their business. And I don't think these guys are too cool for school. I don't think that's their approach. I just think sometimes I don't think that they understand how big this thing really is. And I'm not just talking about playing Purdue. I'm talking about every single game you play as a college basketball player. It's a big deal, and it's important. And you got to believe that. And if you don't, I don't think you got a chance. So that's what I mean by edge. I'm talking about the fire in the belly, the want to compete, the want to go out there and take somebody's head off. And I say that metaphorically. I don't mean that literally. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's what I mean by it, Doc.
Fish, I think it's very well said. And I think, a week ago I really got critical of Indiana basketball. And a lot of people came at me really hard. People aren't coming at me hard anymore for what I said, Fish. I mean, and they just aren't because now, Purdue, a lot of Indiana people watch that game more so than any, and it's frustrating as a former player because we all don't. One of the things that people mistake about former players don't think that they always played hard or played well. They know they didn't, and they don't want to see that for anybody else.
Right.
They don't want to. You said it perfectly. They waste opportunities. That guy like me, God, would I love that opportunity again.
Exactly.
That's where former players come from.
That's exactly right. Because when you played the game, and I didn't, Doc. I never played basketball except my freshman year of high school, and after that church league stuff. But I played other sports. And the higher up I got, the better. I finally found out you're not good enough, and got involved in something else. It's called broadcasting.
Mm-hmm. And it's worked out well, by the way. But go ahead, Fish.
So from my perspective, I look at it and I watch these kids play, and I watch how they approach things, especially when things aren't going well. And there's 2 different ways to approach it. You can kind of sit there and languish in the negativity of it all, or you can fight back. And right now, I'm not seeing that fight. Now, that doesn't mean that they haven't been fighters this year, because they certainly have. I mean, look at the games that they came back from and won. They were like 7 or 8 in a row that they had to come back from deficits to win those ball games and had to fight right down to the end, and many of them. So they have some fight in them, but I'm not seeing it right now, and I'm not seeing it on a consistent basis, and I don't know why. And you know, that's not my area. That's a coach's area, and maybe he could answer it. But at this juncture, they're not showing that on a consistent basis, that fight and that belief that they can beat you. And you've got to believe that. I don't care who you are or what team you play for. If you don't believe you can win, you might as well not walk out on the floor.
Well, that's really well said, Fish. I said earlier on the show, I said, you know, it's not one of the frustrations, I think, for Indiana folks, Don Fischer, nice enough to join us, is you saw them play really well. Like, nobody's beaten Marquette like that. Nobody, right?
That's exactly right. And look at, I mean, I think Butler's a really good basketball
Me too.
team.
Yes.
And I think Purdue's really good. But they have both gone through stretches this year where they didn't play very well. And Purdue just finished up one where they lost like 5 out of their last 6 ball games, and then all of a sudden they had won 5 out of 6 before Indiana played them. Now they won 6 out of their last 7. Why? Well, they somehow turned things around. Internally, maybe just internally from an individual standpoint, each guy starting to understand his role. I don't know. I'm not a coach, so I haven't lived in that locker room like every other coach has. I just see the results. And there's no question that Purdue's turnaround and Butler's turnaround this year, or at least the way they're playing right now, has shown that you can get back away, or you can get back out of this funk and get back into a winning scenario. And I think this team is capable of that, and that's, of course, what we're going to hope for.
You know, Fish, it's funny because I've mentioned that exact thing. I said today on the show, look, I ripped them last week. I'm not going to rip them every day. I'm tired of hearing me, right? But the truth of the matter is it's a long season. A week ago, I did the Purdue, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I did the Purdue-Michigan State game, and Fish, they were a mess. I mean, they had bad body language. Carson Edwards was a pig. They took him out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you just said it. Here they go. Butler, before you came on, I just recanted Butler's lost 4 out of 5, lost by 34 on the road, lost 2 close games, 1-point games at Xavier. And you know what? They said to hell with it. And it's such a long season. Nobody's given up, but we got to call a spade a spade. We got to say what it is.
Right. Exactly. And like I said, Doc, I'm not a coach, and I don't live in the locker room with these guys, and I basically do interviews with them every now and then. And my belief is that it can only be fixed internally. It can't be fixed externally. It's nothing I can say or nothing that you can say or anybody else can say. It's got to be fixed inside the program and inside that locker room. And if those guys can figure that out, then Indiana's going to have a chance. If they can't figure it out, this is going to be a really long season.
No, you're right, because nobody gives a rat's ass.
That's right. Nobody cares.
Hey, Fish, nobody cares. Hey, you know what? In life, like 10% of people care, 80% don't care, and 20% or 10% more hate you. I get all that. But in college basketball, the only other than your own fans, 100% of people are happy you're struggling.
That's right. And trust me, the fan base ain't all on your side either.
No. Hey, my dad used to say it best, Dan, the fans are on your side, win or tie, brother,
That's
and
right,
we're
baby.
not sure about I don't blame the fan base for being – look, there should be expectations for hustle. You should not be in a position because you're an honest guy, and let's face it, Fish, you're old and you don't give a rat's anymore. I mean, what the hell? You and I are 100 years old. Fire us? Okay, that means I play more golf. But the truth of the matter is, Fish, you shouldn't be in a position. We should be talking about execution, or we should be talking about missed free throws. Shouldn't be talking about what we saw because what we saw was real in terms of warm-ups, or do guys want to play, for crying out loud? Not against Purdue, maybe against Chicago State. I don't even think then, but not against Purdue. Come on.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I don't know if some kids don't understand this rivalry thing and how important it is and what it means. If they don't after Saturday's ball game, then they weren't paying attention at all, or still aren't, because that meant something. That game, the way it was played, you had a chance to turn things around a little bit, at least make it a struggle right to the end of the contest. And Indiana didn't do that. And that's what always disturbs me, Because you could, you know what? This is a talented Indiana basketball team. They've got talent on it. Injuries aside and all that kind of stuff, they've got kids that can play the game. Now, you got to understand that you have to play the game, and you have to go out there and bust your tail. And right now, I just don't see that same fight in this basketball team. That's what concerns me the most. And if that doesn't change, then like I said before, it's going to be a really, really difficult season to deal with.
Well, Fish, I appreciate your honesty. I do, because honesty is not, as you know, with this fan base, honesty is not very well appreciated. Everybody wants to say, screw Bobby, this, but I appreciate your honesty, man. That was great stuff, Fish. Thanks, my friend. Travel safe this week.
All right, Doc. Thanks. See you.
All right. That's the great Don Fischer. What an interview right there. Now, that's, look, I told you 2 weeks ago when I introduced you to the term shoe guy what this was all about, and you just heard a great definition right there of shoe guy.